All right, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode at Benchmark Studios. We have a very special guest today, someone whose work I admire highly, someone whose work I'm still learning about, but who's having a huge impact here in our community of Lancaster City and specifically within our population of young people at the School District of Lancaster. Miss Lois Byler has become a friend of mine, and again, I have spent time learning from her, probably more in every conversation that we've had than she has learned from me. And so I just wanted you all to get a chance to get to know her today so we can highlight the work she's doing and very specifically, certainly how some of that overlaps with Benchmark, but really how her work is being done in a way that hasn't been done before and that she's leading the way for a lot of the students and families who need special care and attention in our district. So Mrs. Byler, thank you for coming in. I'm really happy to have you and I look forward to this discussion. I think if you could just tell the group a little bit about who you are.
All right. Thank you, Will. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your kindness that you have extended over and over again. So my name is Nyambura Byler. I am dropping the Lois. We'll talk about that some other time. So, and I came to this country from Kenya, where I was born and raised a couple years ago. And I love being here. I love what I do every morning. I love the students I work with and the families also. And it is an honor to be able to work with such resilient people that I work with every day.
I have to ask because I said your name in the opening as Miss Lois Byler, and you said you were dropping Lois, and your first name is pronounced Nyambura.
Oh, you did really well on that.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. It's a beautiful name.
So when I was born, my parents named me Nyambura after my grandmother, and that is our culture. And then at some point, when we were baptized, we were given a Bible name, which was Lois. As I work with the kids right now, I find a lot of them trying to acquire more English-sounding names in the quest to be more acceptable. So I started thinking about that and wondered, am I walking the talk? What I tell kids, keep your African names. Do I have my African name?
Yeah.
So I legally got my name changed.
Well, it's a very purposeful decision. I'm sorry that I said Lois right off the bat.
You're good. You didn't know, Will. Now you know.
Now I know. Tell me a little bit about the student population that you work with. It's a unique group. It sometimes overlaps with our students at Benchmark, but tell me a little bit more about them.
So my position with the IU13 gives me an opportunity to work with the School District of Lancaster. And as a cultural navigator from Africa, I work with the African students. And when I first started this position, I would get a call from a teacher or administrator, can you help with this student and the other one? And then I realized that our young men, the boys, were getting in a lot of trouble. And as I studied and thought, what is really going on with the boys? The girls, I get a call, she pulled my hair, she didn't like my dress, some like girlish like that. But not to the extent of issues that we are seeing with the young men. They are going to jail. They are going to detention centers. So a lot of stuff. And that is where I started thinking, what is this and what do we need to do about it? And I am the kind of person that when I see a problem, I want to be able to bring a solution. So in that case, I started in the School District of Lancaster what we call African Young Men Programs.
And that's where I got to meet you.
Right.
You came to a community meeting where we were having a lot of discussion about violence in the community. And you stood up and shared a story that I won't forget because it highlighted what most of us don't hear, which is the people behind some of these incidents. Specifically in the story that you shared, that culturally something was happening that a family believed was appropriate, but that maybe wasn't appropriate given what we believe to be right here in our community. But that was a lens that we hadn't thought about before, that someone can be behaving in line with what they believe to be culturally true, but that doesn't line up with what we see here in our community. And I know that you see families navigating that. How do you work to help them? I mean, the groups that you have started for African young men are helping and are working. What are you doing in those groups?
So for the young men, we work at self-acceptance as the first thing. That means you are African, you have beautiful dark skin, your nice curly hair, it doesn't need to be straightened or changed, and your beautiful name that your mom and dad did not just wake up one morning and say, oh, he looks like. They processed, they sat with it. Who shall we name this child after and why? And so when they give you that name, it has a lot of meaning and a lot of hope for the parent also. So all those pieces that I was seeing the young men trying to be acceptable and kind of running from themselves. Yeah. So that is why I started the program. So we do self-acceptance and we work on being Black, being African, or hair, and that leads to a lot of hygiene issues. We also work on respect because, again, in different cultures, respect looks different. Yeah. In this culture, the bias is against the elderly. It's almost like the elderly should go home and sit down. In our culture, the elderly have wisdom, have experience, and that they get that kind of respect. So the kids were caught in between. And so we are working on that piece too, respect. And the other piece that I highlight in there is I highlight respecting women. And that, again, takes me to sexual purity. I mean, I go all over the map. Yep. And so we talk about that as well. How do you treat a girl? How do you honor her? How do you show her that you're a man of integrity when you have a relationship with her?
So many of these young men have hopefully good cultural teaching at home, but then get inundated with social media and music. How can you help turn them to some of the healthy influences when they're just bombarded with the peer pressure and the social media and all of that?
So I think some of it, I'm a woman of prayer, so I do pray over these kids. And I have hope because I know that God did not send them to this country for them to suffer or for parents to lose their kids into another culture. And so I speak a lot of hope into them. Like, you are going to be the next president, and we talk about things like that. I say, I come to the hospital at LGH, I don't want to be greeted good morning. I want you to meet me and say, Jambo Mama, in Swahili, because you're going to be the next doctor. And just calling that out and calling the manhood up just makes a whole lot of difference for them.
Are they used to that, or is this the first time that someone has come in and really poured into them like you do?
I feel like the parents are so stressed. Yeah. They're not in their country. Some don't speak the language, and so it's a lot of stress. And then they have to work night, so there's not a lot of time to spend, teaching the kids. The kids speak the language, and like you said, they're on social media and seeing this and seeing the other thing, so they're quick to follow that. So I feel like the opportunity that I have is to continue to influence as a mother, as a grandmother in this community, and as a Christian woman, and also as somebody who knows the culture. Yeah.
You and I have worked with a young man who is in our youth intervention center, and you've gone in to support him, and that was very powerful. How did you support him when he was incarcerated and really struggling?
I have worked with that student for years and that family. So some of the things that I did with him, and thank you so much for opening the door for me to be able to go there and visit him. I would go in and we would just have those conversations like, who are you? What are you doing here? And a couple times I brought a book. One time I brought a book, and the book was about Jonah and how he was running. And he knew part of the story. That was what was interesting. So he would fill in some of the things, and then we sat with it. And I said, hey, what do you think? And he was able to kind of pull some stuff out from inside that was hurting, that was causing him pain, and relate to Jonah. So it is just a lot of, again, experience and probably wisdom working with him, especially. And I can go in and I can laugh with the kids. You know, we can have a good time, but I can also.
Yes. They respect
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
They have a ton of respect for you. I think that's what in part makes you so effective. That not only do you love and care for them, but they have a lot of respect for you. And you have a lot of wisdom. And one part of your story that I hope you'll share a little bit of is just how you grew up. And specifically, you had a very powerful influence in your life, and you still do in your mom and the work that she's done. Maybe if you could just share a little bit of that. That's a part of who you are.
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of 8 children, and I grew up in a household where we were taught about God. We were taught to be leaders, and we were not just taught, we saw it in practice. Both my parents were leaders, and they still are leaders in the community. So my mom has started a school, and they have more than 800 students right now. And they have an orphanage where they have about 100 kids living in there. And they also just recently started a trade school. So, and right now she doesn't walk much, but she has her own place where she sits and can see the whole space, what is going on, and is very alert to what's going on. So her heart, from when I can remember when I was little, I'm going to just tell this little story. Where we lived in the community, there was a madman, and he would come down the lane where the trash cans were placed by the municipality. And as he came down, he would look in the trash can, and whatever was in there, he would eat. So one day, my mom tells me, take these bananas and throw them in the trash. I'm like, what's wrong with my mama today? Throwing bananas out. But I obeyed, I took them, I threw them in the trash. And then I looked and I saw Johanna, his name was Johanna, coming down. So I went and stood somewhere and I hid and I looked. Sure enough, he came, he stopped at that trash can and he pulled the bananas and he stood there and ate them.
He ate them all.
My mama took care of even the community madman. That was our example of serving those who are on the outskirts of society. God has blessed us as a family. All of us are in positions of leadership, doing great work for humanity. And so I don't want to say it comes by, from that, but I wonder if that did not set the foundation for me as well.
Which, when you were growing up, had she already started the school?
No. She did not start the school until years later. And that one, too, the way she started the school, they moved from where we used to live, and they bought a property. And on that property, one day she was walking down the hill. I don't even know where she was going, but she saw kids. It was school day, but kids were out. And she said, hey, why aren't y'all in school? Because she talks to every human being. And the kids said, well, we just moved from such and such a place and we don't have school. She followed up, and there has been some tribal clashes in Kenya. And these people had ran away from where they were and come and resettled down the hill from where my parents live. And so they were just resettling. They didn't have school. They didn't have money for their kids. They didn't have anything. So that week, my mom called a young lady in the community and said, hey, come. She had a little shed made of wood, almost to fall over. She said, we're going to start school. And they started school. And she didn't even have money to pay that teacher, but the teacher was like, oh, let's do this. So
that was the beginning of the school.
That was the beginning of the school.
And it's grown.
Oh, yeah.
Huge way.
Yeah, it is a huge, huge, huge work that she has done. She has 4 of my siblings work with her. My dad was working with her until he retired a little bit ago. And and you can imagine how many staff is employed in that space. So
How she's been here to see you?
Yeah, she just went home yesterday.
She just went home yesterday.
Yeah, she just arrived yesterday.
Did she have a good time here?
Oh, did she ever? Did we? I think it was about us more than, we loved it.
What does she think about the work you are doing here?
Oh, she's so supportive. She came to one of my programs and she talked to the young man. And she said, the reason you're here is to go to school. My mom has a 3rd grade education. And she always says, I wish I had more school. And that is what motivated me again. Last year, I went back to school. And in May, I graduated with my master's degree. So it is a lot of hearing my mom, seeing the kids, you're telling them, you need to go to school. And you do it. Yeah. And you show by example. Yep. So she talked to them about the value of education. And then I gave them the snack. And the kids are eating. And one of the kids stood up, and I hadn't given her any. And we had already eaten. And she took him some, and she has not forgotten the kindness of that young man. So she just loves deeply. She really does, yeah.
When you're helping, knowing that that's your background, that's what you grew up in, when you're here and you deal with all of the influences of our society today, how do you protect your own culture, and how do you protect your own sense of roots?
Yeah, I think part of it, I'm finding a lot of people, I find that if you're not rooted in something and know who you are, then whatever wind comes along, you're going to be blown that way, or you're going to go this way, But if you sincerely know who you are, and for me, being rooted in Christ and having my deep identity in Him, and then where I grew up and my family, I know who my family is. I get identity from there. And then my husband and I, we have that identity in Christ. Those are the things that root me. Mm-hmm. And I walk with my head held high. I'm not afraid. I don't need anybody to what's the word I'm looking for? To tell me who I am. I know who I am. Yeah. And when I enter space, I enter it. Like the Word of God says, we should walk humbly, and we should walk mercifully with others, and we should do justice. That's what the Word of God says for us. I think the humble part sometimes trips me.
Trips all of us.
Because, especially when you are advocating for others, it's hard to just sit in the meeting quietly when you see injustice. So sometimes I walk away from a meeting and, who did I throw under the bus today? And did they need to be thrown under the bus? Right. That's the next question.
Important question. Well, I want to talk a little bit about this, just getting to know you and getting to talk about some of the students who we've both worked with. I've learned a lot. One of the things that I've learned is that sometimes our students, the ones that you work with, don't get justice given some of the systems that they're in. But what does that look like for people who don't have the opportunity to meet the students that you work with? What should they know about what these young people are having to go through?
Well, I read a fable, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Recently about the giraffe and the elephant.
Okay.
So a giraffe built a house. And as you can imagine, it was tall. Everything was tall and not very wide, right? Mm-hmm. So he had a friend, and his friend was an elephant. And he invited his friend over. When the elephant came, he knocked on the door, and the giraffe opened. Oh, come on in. But as soon as the elephant put his head, the house was not wide enough for his shoulders. So because the giraffe really wanted him to come in, he said, why don't you go through the garage? So he went through the garage, and because of his weight, when he stepped in, the whole thing sank. So in that example, there are systems here, wonderful systems, and they have worked for generations. But are they working for everybody? We have invited people like the giraffe invited the elephant, but are the systems here working for all the cultures? So when I advocate, I come from that lens. And I'll tell you, I love America. Growing up as a kid, I remember we had a famine in my country, and America came through for us. In school, some kids only got one meal, and it was the one that was provided by Americans. So I cannot throw America under the bus. Sure. They have helped so many people in the world. The issue is, as other people come in, their culture, and until we learn what the people need, they're going to get in a lot of trouble. Yeah. Some of our young men will be walking next to a girl, and in our culture, you just hold hands and walk and have a good time. They hold somebody's hand. The next thing, police are called. What is the word? Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment. But that wasn't.
That's not where he was going. He was just being friendly. Yeah. So, and then there's other systems that are called in to help, and they work greatly, like to protect children. I would not say let's do away with them. But how do we navigate them so that they are culturally appropriate? And should we consider other cultures? Like in our culture, if a young man gets in trouble, instead of being taken to the chief, who is the authority, the government authority right away, the elders are called first. And they sit with the young man. You did 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and this is your punishment. They fine him, and he is expected to obey the elders. If he does not, the same elders are going to pick him up, tie him with ropes, and drag him to the government. So that is the first step of authority. But here, because of lacking that step and straight to the government, then we are losing a lot of kids. And it's not because they are good, or they didn't do wrong, no. It's just because they did not get that first step of, hey, we need you to reform this as a community, and then if you do not, we're going to send you up there.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of behaviors could be fixed or amended if we just had that middle layer of community before we went straight to calling them?
Exactly. If we have a place where we can keep like our young men accountable to this group of elders, and they know that if I don't shape up here, I'm gonna I think it would be a very good step for us.
I think we can use Benchmark as an example because I think we have some work to do in this area. We're a community organization. Young African men do show up here to be a part of our programs. And in a lot of ways, I think we're the giraffe that built the house, and we're not. We want the elephant to be here, but our houses may not be built to accommodate that. So what do you think a community organization like us could do? Just things that we need to think about to better support these young men.
Yeah, I think first of all, just having me here, that's a great step, and you're welcome to use the space. That has been a very good step to just come. I think, though, it's a lot of conversations, Will. It's not a one-time said and done deal. I have a good friend, and we disagreed about something culturally. And he came over to the house, and we talked and talked. Soon it was time for me to cook dinner, but we were not done. And I said, I need to do dinner. He said, I'll follow you around, and we'll cook dinner together and talk. So I would be walking down to the freezer, and he was right behind me. Anyway, they are conversations. They are deep conversations for people to be able to understand each other. It is not just a one-time and done deal. I need to understand you, and you need to understand me, and where do we meet, and what do you give up, and what do I give up, so that we can do this. We can work together.
It's tough for people to give stuff up. They don't want to.
Right.
When we don't have to use any names, but if I'm a teacher and I'm having a trouble with a young African man in my class, and I don't know what to do, and somehow I call you. I'm glad that I get to call you, and I need help with this student. What advice can you give me as a teacher? Because we need to have lots of conversations, but I'm so focused on my whole class and I want this student to be supported, but I don't know how to support him. And maybe he's disrupting my class for some reason. Maybe I don't think he respects me. I'm just not sure what to do.
Yeah, and I want to first of all say that teachers are my heroes.
They're the best.
Any day that they leave their houses and go to school to teach other kids, other people's children. And in our culture, teachers are more valuable than presidents because even the president, the doctor, whoever goes through the hands of a teacher. So teachers are highly valued.
I love that.
So when if a teacher calls me and I listen to the issue, I usually work with the teacher towards the student's benefit. But then there's a conversation for me and the teacher so that she knows, hey, you did this to a student, that we don't do that. But outside of the meeting with the student, I also do cultural presentations where, like, the School District of Lancaster has invited me a couple times. I just did one last week for Penn Medicine. So stuff like that I come in and first of all, I do not like to go to a presentation where I get a lot of head knowledge or notes and then I go home and put them somewhere and forget about them. I love to go to a presentation where I can feel anger about the injustice. And I turn my anger to passion to do something about it. So if you come to my presentation, that's what you're going to get. The real stuff, the story like you heard me give at that meeting that makes everybody feel like, that did not happen to a human being. And a lot of times it's not just calling out Africans, it's calling our humanity together. I work at humanity. All of us are broken somewhere. All of us have issues. So how can we all come to the table and empower each other to do our very best?